Hey everyone, welcome back to The Explainer. Today we're taking an incredibly complex topic and breaking it down so you can truly understand what's happening behind the headlines. We're going on a pretty fascinating, comprehensive journey today. We're going to examine a disease that has completely shaped human history, and we're looking at it from literally every angle, from its massive global impact all the way down to the microscopic, biological mechanisms of how it actually attacks the human body. We're talking about cholera.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. We're going to cover 1. The threat of cholera, 2. A global pandemic history, 3. Inside the human body, 4. Diagnosis and treatment, and finally, 5. Stopping the spread.
Section 1. The threat of cholera, a modern crisis.
You know, it's incredibly easy to think of waterborne diseases as just something out of a history book or maybe just a minor inconvenience. But make no mistake, there are an estimated 1.3 to 4.0 million new cases of cholera globally every single year. And tragically, that results in anywhere from 21,000 to 143,000 deaths annually. This isn't just some lingering historical threat. It is highly active right now. In fact, a massive new outbreak was declared in Nigeria in just June of 2024, joining other severely impacted nations like Syria, Afghanistan, and Haiti.
So why does this bacteria still thrive today? Well, it's basically a perfect storm of intrinsic and external drivers. You've got these baseline intrinsic vulnerabilities, things like poverty, lack of safe drinking water, and open defecation. But the disease absolutely explodes when those vulnerabilities collide with external driving factors, like violent conflict, natural disasters, or major humanitarian crises. Basically, when infrastructure collapses, cholera thrives.
Section 2. Global pandemic history, centuries of outbreaks. This bacteria has been terrorizing humanity for over 2 centuries now. The first recognized pandemic began in the Ganges Delta way back in 1817. Then, a monumental breakthrough happened in 1854 during a massive London outbreak. A physician named John Snow figured out the transmission was directly linked to contaminated water, and he famously stopped the local outbreak by simply removing the handle of the Broad Street water pump. But here is the truly staggering fact. The 7th pandemic, which began in Indonesia in 1961, is literally still ongoing today. We are currently living in the 7th global cholera pandemic.
Section 3. Inside the human body. Cellular sabotage. All right, let's zoom all the way in. What makes this pathogen so incredibly successful and deadly? Well, meet our culprit, Vibrio cholerae. Under a gram stain, they are gram-negative, actively motile bacilli that look like these little curved commas measuring just 2 to 4 micrometers long. And if you look at them under a microscope, they zip around rapidly using this single polar flagellum. But actually getting into our system isn't a walk in the park for them. To cause infection via contaminated water, you usually have to ingest a massive dose, something like 10 to the 6th to 10 to the 8th power of these bacteria. Why so many? Because our stomach acid is highly lethal to them. Millions die right there at the gastric acid barrier. However, the survivors make it through to the small intestine, and that's exactly where they set up camp, multiply, and deploy their absolute ultimate weapon, the cholera enterotoxin. Now, this toxin is a complex, multimeric protein made of 2 parts, an A subunit and a B subunit. Think of the B subunit as a literal master key. It binds directly to a very specific receptor on our intestinal cells called the GM1 ganglioside. Once that B subunit unlocks the door, it allows the extremely dangerous A subunit to penetrate the cell membrane and get inside. Once it's inside, that A subunit kicks off a totally devastating chain reaction. It activates something called the GS protein, which in turn switches on an enzyme called adenylate cyclase. The result of all that? A massive spike in a molecule called cyclic AMP, or CAMP. To put it in plain English, this spike completely short-circuits the cell's plumbing. It tricks the intestinal cells into rapidly pumping out a massive flood of sodium, chloride, and water right into the gut lumen. And the scale of this fluid loss? It is terrifying. A severely infected person can lose up to 20 to 30 liters of electrolyte-rich fluid in a single day. Think about that. That is roughly 10 to 15 large soda bottles of liquid draining from your body in just 24 hours. And here is the absolutely crucial takeaway. The bacteria isn't actually destroying your tissue. It's the sheer, rapid dehydration and the sudden loss of electrolytes that causes circulatory collapse, shock, and ultimately death.
Section 4. Diagnosis and treatment.
Clinical perspective.
So, with the body draining fluid at such an aggressive rate, how do doctors actually identify what's happening and fight back in real time? Interestingly enough, between 50 and 75% of cases are completely asymptomatic. But for those who do get sick, the incubation period is incredibly fast, just 12 hours to 3 days. It starts with sudden nausea and is quickly followed by profuse, painless diarrhea. Clinicians specifically look for a hallmark sign known as rice water stools, because the fluid is so heavily laden with mucus and epithelial cells, it literally looks like the cloudy water left over after you boil rice. Without immediate treatment, the mortality rate is a staggering 25 to 50%. To confirm this diagnosis in the lab, microbiologists use a highly selective gelatin-like medium called TCB Agar. Vibrio cholerae rapidly ferments the sucrose in this agar, which changes the pH and creates these beautiful, unmistakable, glowing yellow colonies right against the dark green background. It's a remarkably clear visual confirmation of exactly what they're dealing with. So the crucial point is how we actually treat it once it's confirmed. You might automatically think antibiotics are the immediate answer, right? Actually, no. The absolute primary lifesaver here is rehydration, so oral rehydration therapy or IV fluids for the severe cases. You have to replace the lost water, glucose, and electrolytes immediately to save the patient's life. Antibiotics like tetracycline or doxycycline are basically just secondary support. They just help diminish the duration and volume of the fluid loss.
Section 5. Stopping the spread, prevention and control.
Now, treating the sick is obviously critical, but how do we stop the bacteria from entering the water and food supply in the first place? The absolute first line of defense is a framework known as WASH, water, sanitation, and hygiene. Because the bacteria can survive on surfaces for up to a week, meticulous hygiene is completely non-negotiable. This means always boiling drinking water, washing fruits and vegetables with clean, potable water, and practicing really rigorous hand washing with soap before handling food and after using the toilet.
Zooming out to the community level, the controls really have to be systemic. We absolutely must stop open defecation by providing proper toilets and modern sewage disposal. In health clinics, it means strict patient isolation and managing waste with rigorous standard precautions. And we also have some pretty incredible medical tools at our disposal now, oral cholera vaccines like Dukoral and Schenkel. These are killed whole cell vaccines given in 2 doses that provide vital temporary protection, which is especially huge during outbreaks. And that brings us to our final lingering thought for today. We know exactly what causes this disease. We know exactly how it works on a cellular level. We know the cure is fundamentally clean water and basic hygiene. So why is cholera still claiming tens of thousands of lives every single year? It really forces us to realize that the ultimate long-term cures for this entirely preventable disease aren't just biological. They are modern town planning, proper education, and genuine global infrastructure equity. Think about that the next time you effortlessly turn on a tap. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope this helped connect the micro to the macro for you. Keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.